Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we have a talk about a Linux project, such as a distribution, desktop environment, or applications, or maybe a smorgasbord of applications. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And to prove that, I do have a, lesson says SUSE, but it's close enough. And with me today, I've got a fantastic panel of people. I've got Ben, Lisa. Lisa's new. Welcome, Lisa. Sean, Jinda, and Cruz. How is everybody?
Excellent.
Having a crazy time, Nate.
Crazy time.
Yeah.
Crazy times are a good time.
Yes,
Sometimes.
they are, my friend. Yes, they
Well,
are.
at least, when things are going not well, you got a story to tell later on,
Yes, and that's going to be part of our weekly community free pour from me.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah, it's going to be the story of how Ben screwed up his wireless crap. So,
Well, that'll be
you know,
maybe
that'll be a
we'll
heck of
throw
a
that in
story,
the
that's for
community discussion.
sure. Yeah, we'll
So,
get there.
be sure to do the straw poll. If you have not done so already, we do have a straw poll about, the whole Ubuntu flavors. Which one is your fab fave, I guess, if you want to call it that? No.
Mine's
Which,
going to be a heck of a story, Nate, for
which
sure.
official Ubuntu-based distro is your favorite? So, yeah, your
Oh, God.
fab fave. Yeah. Is it a main or an official flavor? So, anyway, if you can do that, I think that would be. I was kind of torn on it, so I'm gonna go with the. I don't know. We'll get to the results later on in the show. All right, so on the dock for today, we're going to be talking about the Ubuntu distribution, the smattering of Ubuntu distributions, I should say. Talk about our exploration there, do a little housekeeping,
Ooh.
some news and open discussion, and then our last call. But first, what I'm doing in Linux and tech, I didn't really prepare for this one, but I am going to go ahead and share a fun little thing that I did figure out. And I was going to do like a video on it, ran out of time, like a short or something, because people hate the shorts because they're portrait instead of landscape, but whatever. So there is a way, or I should say, Frameworkers have released a way you can access the microcontroller on board to control like the lights and such. So for example, the power button on the Framework laptop. What's something that's pretty cool about it is you can actually make it whatever color you want except blue. And so I wrote a little script to just kind of have it cycle colors, or maybe just make it green to match my kind of OpenSUSE thing I get going on for me. And so instead of having a white LED like the box, the frame, it is green. Now when I do that, it doesn't, it won't, when you put it to sleep, it just stays green. So that's not quite right. I don't have it figured out like how I can make it pulsate yet. But I thought that was really neat that they exposed all that. It's just a package to install. OpenSUSE has it. I'm sure all the other distributions have it. And then you can make the color whatever you like. And I think it's just neat that they did that. And also something else really neat from Framework, just rolled on recently. And I did write an article on keepinglit.com about this, but they did expose some of the other bits and pieces of the battery control. So you can set, I don't know if all desktop environments do this, but in Plasma, you can set how much you want your battery to charge. So if you leave your machine docked all the time, it's not good to have it always fully charged all the time. You'll rapidly reduce the life of your battery. And so within Plasma itself, you can adjust that down a little bit. So I have it set to 85% max charge rate, and then it doesn't, supposedly my battery will last longer. I actually did have to replace my battery on my Framework already, probably because I keep it docked too much. So anyway, I thought it was really neat that it was a neat little surprise that happened this week. So if you have a Framework machine, or even think about a Framework machine, or if you even care a little bit, you can adjust the charge level, or the max charge level on that and play with the microcontroller that's on board. So I don't know if they have enough exposed where you can crash the computer, but I bet they do. Oh, and also I did want to begin the show with a little bit of a joke. So, do you know what a computer, like a general purpose computer, and an air conditioner have in common? Sean, any idea? Mike? Best guess.
No daggum idea.
No idea. With a computer or an air conditioner, once you open up Windows, they become useless. Aha! Boom. All right, there we go.
Oh God, that was good.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
No, but it's a little too close to home when you're on Windows 11.
Yeah. Actually, I don't mind Windows 11. I run a Windows 11 VM for work stuff, and it's all right. I think the user interfaces, I think they got it cleaned up quite a bit. It's a little more plasma-like.
Yeah, I'm still trying to clean up all the garbage. All these stupid things. Advertisements continuously.
Yeah. Well,
I
Windows
currently
Pro,
have
I don't think.
one. I currently have one Windows install that is air gapped. So
Windows
I just need it
98?
for one program. No, it's Windows 10.
Oh.
It only needs to. I need it for one program and one program only.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
And it's a resin slicer.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just have that thing. Just it doesn't connect to anything. It just sits there on its own, going, "I'm very lonely."
I wonder if is there not any resin slicers that are good enough on Linux then? Is that the idea?
The resin printer that I have, the slicer that I use, the Wifi slicer, used to support outputting the format for my resin slicer on Linux, but it doesn't anymore. So,
Well, that's no good.
yeah. And when you look at resin slicers, they're all kind of proprietary anyway. So I haven't
I
found
gotcha.
any real open source solutions for that yet.
That kind of surprises me, really. I would think that
Yeah,
there'd be something.
Yeah, kind of fundamentally, it's like a very simpler form of a FDM printer because you have your Z height and then you have exposure, and that's about it. I mean,
hmm
so you would think there'd be something open source, but I haven't found it. And if anyone has, let me know.
Well, I'll tell you, I've run Photon Workshop, and which is a Windows application on Linux under Wine, and it works fine. But I have tried running a few others and have problems, so I understand it's hit and miss. But the one I have works fine running under Wine. So if you haven't tried it under Wine lately, you may want to try that.
What was the name of the application again?
Well, it's Photon Workshop, but it's for my specific Photon printer. It's a resin.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. It probably won't work with mine. But
Yeah, but it does work fine under Wine running on Ubuntu. So
yeah, I haven't had any luck running the slicers that work with my resin printer under Wine, but I think that's just a me thing.
Well, seems odd that there's not software more available for that, I guess. But I guess what can you do, huh? Well, anyway, I guess we should probably get to that straw poll. If you have not done the straw poll yet, please do so. Is it link in the chatter there? I don't know. There, just in case. I'm going to throw the link for the straw poll in there. So it is. What's your experience with? I'm sorry. Which official Ubuntu distro is your favorite? So I get some replies here. I'll read first. The first reply was, "Wow, I didn't know there were so many different Ubuntu flavors." I think they may have missed flavor there. How many are there total? Did anybody actually count? No.
No, there's too many.
There's a whole basket full of Ubuntu fun.
Way too many.
More than 3.
Greater than 3. Basically, most of the Linuxi out there is some kind of Ubuntu derivative, it seems like. Another reply was server. So there's that. Another is, as an aside, just my 2 cents. When I want to use Ubuntu or a derivative, I tend to use Mint with Cinnamon. Reason being, I tend to dislike snaps. Mint is basically Ubuntu with snaps shut off. With that said, if I had to pick one from the options listed, I'd probably be Ubuntu Cinnamon, just so I have the DE I am used to. Okay. Next one is, I voted main, but I have a specific reason for that, as I prefer Cinnamon to GNOME 4. Ubuntu GNOME 3/4 has been the only release that guarantees I have all of Canonical's latest and greatest stuff in it. They aren't the only ones to be like this, which is also why if I'm going to use a particular distro, I always use whatever their flagship product is. Ubuntu, GNOME, OpenSUSE, KDE, Fedora, GNOME, Linux Mint, Cinnamon, USW. I don't know what USW means. This is the same way I look at smartphones. Honestly, I only look at flagship models because generally the rest have been cheapened to the point that the experience isn't worth it, which is also why I only buy a new smartphone once every few years. Who the heck can afford to keep buying flagships? If Ubuntu Cinnamon was the absolute exact equal of Ubuntu GNOME, then I would use and would vote for Ubuntu Cinnamon instead. Yeah, I also voted the same. Ubuntu proper is the most... Oh, I'm sorry. Next one is... Yeah, I also voted the same. Ubuntu proper is the most polished out of all of them. I wish Kubuntu was better than it is, but it is not, sadly. All right. So let's see the results of the poll. So in number 1 is at almost 28% is the main Ubuntu or the GNOME version. In number 2 is at about 17% is Lubuntu. At almost 12% is with, okay, it just shifted. So tied for third place is Ubuntu Studio and Xubuntu at 13.33%. Kubuntu comes in at, well, I guess it'd be 5th place then, at 10%. Then Ubuntu Budgie, Ubuntu Cinnamon, Mate, and then Unity. So at Ubuntu and Ubuntu Kylin or Chillin, I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. Because of the K and a Y, it's Kylin. So, oh, and so on. So the what I didn't know how to say was ESWs and so on. Okay, well, it's good to know. All right, so I'm curious, Jinda, did you vote in the poll?
Oh, yeah.
Which did you vote for?
Always Ubuntu Studio.
Ubuntu Studio. Okay, so you're the one. That's why you left. Oh, and by the way, it shifted again. Now tied for 2nd place is Lubuntu and Xubuntu at 16%. So I imagine it's probably just going to keep shifting. I don't know who won.
Thing.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that. All right. Yeah, so I voted for Lubuntu. I find that to be like my favorite of the Ubuntus. I don't know if that's crazy, but it's just, I think it's like the best LXQt experience out there, and I think they did a good job.
It is.
And so I think, yeah. Oh, so Sci-Fi Surfer is one that gave a really long response. So there you go. That's why he knew it. USW is. And I would say Fedora Plasma Edition is probably one of the best Plasmas out there. So I think we should probably give that one another try there. Sci-Fi Surfer. And then what about you, Sean? Do you have a particular Ubuntu flavor you prefer?
If I were to daily drive it again, I would go with Budgie.
Budgie?
I
Okay.
just like this. I just think they do a really nice mix of that.
I can see that. Yeah, they do a nice job. They all actually really do a very nice job, I think. But I think it's like which desktop environment does it for you. That's kind of how I look at it. Anna Rita asks, does Ubuntu have an XFCE version? Yes, it does. It's called Xubuntu, or Xubuntu, Xubuntu, basically. Xubuntu, I guess. So yeah, you can check that out if that does something for you. And also, welcome, Dale. Nice to have you.
Thank you very much. Stuck at Lowe's with Sweetie in the garden center.
Totally understandable. So, total sidetrack here. What'd you get?
She got ferns and flowers, and I got some plumbing parts, so my tomorrow is busy.
Gotcha. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that'll be fun, though, right? I
Absolutely.
I got a bunch of fruit-bearing plants to put in the ground, but I'm kind of waiting until the electric company does their clearing of around the power lines, because actually where I want to put some of my stuff is maybe too close. So, anyway, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, every day's a new project.
Yeah, I was actually listing out the projects today, and there's like what I want to get done this year, and there's definitely about 6 months worth of projects in a 3-month period I want to cram in there. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure I'll be really happy with myself at the end of it.
Yeah, I feel you.
So anyway, did you happen to try any of the Ubuntu's out? Do you have time for that?
I actually run the Kubuntu's on my mother's computer and
Okay.
my sweetie's main computer are both running the Kubuntu 6-month release cycle.
Okay.
No, take that back. Sweetie's running the 6-month release cycle, and my mom's running LTS. Of course, I am adminning both of them,
Of course.
or ITing both of them, but one's on the LTS and one's on the 9-month or 6-month release, and I've been using Kubuntu for 12 plus years in some degree. I think it's a great distro.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I would say it's probably my favorite of the. Well, Ubuntu's my favorite, but I think Kubuntu is a good plasma.
Ubuntu is good as well. Yeah.
So Linux Dev Lab says, I forgot that this was today. I've been busy all week. I don't know if he means this as in Linux Saloon or the Ubuntu exploration discussion. Either way, I've been busy all week too. I didn't have as much time noodling around in the land of Ubuntu as I wanted. Oh, Anna Rita says, I don't like modern looks so much. Maybe I am becoming a boomer, so LOL. Nope, you can't become a boomer because you're a Gen Xer. So, Anna, we already talked about this. So you were someone that was kicked out of the house, and you weren't allowed to come back until the lights came on the street. So that's just what you're what happens. So Sci-Fi Surfer said, one of the reasons I kind of made a big-ish deal of getting to chat in this Linux Saloon session is rocking Ubuntu GNOME 48. Well, that's good to know. I would like to, if you'd like to join, you can do that as well. You can join the Zoom and do more of the talking. Cody Lamer says, Kubuntu 24.04 is my home server. It's interesting. Anyway, Zoid Runway says, no Ubuntu Tux Penguin option in the Strawpoll. No. Maybe ran out of options to choose. I don't know. So, cool. Well, I guess that means we should probably go ahead and move on to the distribution exploration discussion. So, the intent of this discussion is to talk about the distribution, and by that we're going to talk about what makes the distribution, just the different aspects of it. And we want to make this objective and constructive, so non-objective opinions like this is garbage is not really helpful, but rather, if you say, I wish it had a specific feature, or I really need features that allow me to do, something, that'll benefit the conversation. The point is to highlight the positives and not ignore the lowlights of the project. Remember, this is a labor of love for some. Let's not poo-poo on it. So, well, why is that over here? That doesn't belong there. So, a little bit about Ubuntu. So I think we've talked about Ubuntu quite a few times now. I don't know. Who here has never heard of Ubuntu before? Lisa? Ben? No? Okay.
I've heard of Ubuntu, Nate. Come on, man. Goodness.
Well, I do like to troll. So a little bit about Ubuntu is started in 2003. They've got numerous flavors, more than I can count. But basically, every major desktop environment out there, it's community supported. They have a long-term support release, as well as every 6 months they release a interim release, so you can have the newer technology and so forth. Long-term releases are generally targeted toward like a server or say more commercial or
grandmas.
Or grandma's. So she'd be like an enterprise, right? Like an enterprise environment is grandma's house.
Mothership.
So, and they've been instrumental in, I would say, pushing the desktop environment for Linux, if not the entire, really the entire computer desktop world. You can run it in a virtual machine or on hardware. I run most of my Ubuntu's, because I do run an Ubuntu server, so I run obviously in VMs. And Ubuntu is a, I can't remember the pronunciation, but it's an Nguni philosophy of Ubuntu is humanity to others, with the connotation of I am what I am because of who we all are. So, the first release was in 2004. I'm sorry, I messed that up. It became one of the most popular Linux distributions. It's like, I think they, according to Ubuntu, like 66% of developers prefer Ubuntu. So it's very popular. And I would say they probably did more to push the Linux environment, the Linux desktop than probably any other company or organization. Okay, now strongly Steam. Steam might be catching up there, maybe perhaps. I don't know. So anyway, it's in April 2004, Mark Shuttleworth invited a bunch of Debian developers to basically work on this, and they laid out what they wanted in a Linux distribution. That's when Canonical Limited was started, and they created an Ubuntu Foundation in 2005, and they have been basically on fire ever since. So some of the, I would say some of the, arguably some of the best things that Canonical has done is they did develop snaps, and some people don't like snaps, but I think it was it's a neat way to distribute software in a containerized and form, essentially. So for the desktop or server. So that does actually compete with Flatpak and Docker or LXC or whatever the container images are. I would also say that another great thing that they developed would be the Unity desktop. Now, it's not my favorite flavor of desktop, but I will say that I think Unity did push the desktop bounds quite a bit. I think it was a time when GNOME, about the time GNOME 3 came out, I think is when that all happened. So, they've done a lot like with the whole Ubuntu Software Center. They developed a lot of things that really kind of change the expectations of Linux distribution. So I think they've done a great job, and it's a great community of people. So if you have if you want to meet some friendly people out there outside Linux Saloon, I'd say check out the Canonical bunch. They're pretty great. Or I should say the Ubuntu community. They are pretty great. So that said, let's talk about Ubuntu. So did anybody here try the mainline Ubuntu? Well, I know that.
I played around with it. Yeah.
Okay. Sci-Fi Surfer said he liked it, or that's his jam. And so, did you play with any of the new features that are bundled in with it? Like I should say the thing that makes, I guess, how do you see it? What was that feature called? I haven't put it in the description here of this. So the screen time feature. The Wellbeing tools empowering you to manage your screen time and boost digital balance. Did anybody play with that?
No.
Is that anything like the screen time that like Apple or Android has, that where it tracks how long you're actually looking at the screens?
I have no idea, but my world is ruled by screens anyway. So, yeah. If you just kind of make me feel bad about looking at a screen, I'm not going to look at that feature. So,
yeah, my employment is directly dependent on what I perform on a screen. So I would say that would not be helpful to me either, or unless I want to maybe use it to keep track of how much time I work, and then do all my entertainment on
that's a
something else.
possibility.
Yeah. So you know how many billable hours you have if you do that, I guess. Track your billable hours with screen time on the GNOME. On the GNOMEs.
Except it'll be interrupting you to take a break every so often, so you won't get as much billable hours.
Oh, that's true. And Fratum, you're not late. You're on time. We're just early. So, So you probably didn't play with that feature. Now, I will say that of all the gnomes you can install or desktop environments, I think Ubuntu does it best. That's my opinion. Because I think I wouldn't call Zorn GNOME based. It's Zorn is Zorn. But I would say Ubuntu does it probably best. Would anybody have a counter to that? I think maybe somebody else does it a little bit better.
I don't know. I think I prefer a vanilla GNOME better than the addition to Ubuntu as at this point. But that's
Okay.
me.
I got you. That's understandable. So I spent the most time in Kubuntu and Lubuntu. I did also install Unity. I didn't install the GNOME one. Well, I should say I installed it, but that's as far as I got. Something that I thought was really neat about the Kubuntu and Lubuntu installs is they didn't take you to a desktop initially. They took you to a screen that said, do you want to try it or do you want to install it? So right from instead of loading the entire desktop and then you'd have to find the installer or start launching installer, they actually launch the installer essentially, or a choose your own adventure initially. And I thought that was really just an absolute beautiful way to begin the whole process. So like if I want to just try Lubuntu and not go through the process of whatever else, you can just try it. And then and Kubuntu. Then also so I just installed them from there. But I thought that was really a really nice feature. I think that's kind of new. I don't remember that from last year.
I
Unless I'm
think
wrong.
on mainline Ubuntu that has been going on for a little bit.
Okay. So Zoran says Ubuntu Mate is my jam. That's a good one. Anyway, so I thought it was a nice touch. Something that I do notice about Kubuntu and Discover, it is way better experience in Kubuntu than in OpenSUSE. Not to disparage my beloved OpenSUSE, but the speed it takes to update itself, for PackageKit to update itself in Kubuntu, that's pretty nice.
Okay, I'm going to sidetrack you just a little bit. And I did test the new parallel downloads for Zipper
Uh,
and it is almost as fast as apt.
oh, really? So
So whenever
if you do parallel downloads and then you use Discover, does that speed that up as well?
I did parallel downloads testing in the terminal,
Okay.
but um, Discover uses Zipper and OpenSUSE uses Zipper as the back end. So once Zipper gets parallel downloads as default, then Discover will be much faster in OpenSUSE. I don't know when that's going to be, but it's amazing faster. But
Well, not
it's not.
not soon enough.
Yeah, any improvement's better, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. I think if that does improve that, then I think I'd be pretty happy. Although most of the time it's already, by the time I go to click on the thing anyway, it's pretty much all updated anyway. So I guess it's probably not that huge of a deal. But definitely some tweaking there could be done on the OpenSUSE side. So I thought that was really neat. I did discover a new game on when I was playing with Kubuntu. I was just kind of clicking around and discover just because like mindless clicking. There is a chicken based platformer, and it made me laugh. So you might, if you like silly platformers that has like good artwork and looks like it's actually a polished product. I'll get the name of that before the end of the show, but I thought it was pretty fun, and I thought, well, it's a great idea. So something with a rooster. You're a rooster in the game, so you're not a producer. Anyway, so were there any, with snaps being default in the Ubuntu's, did anybody here activate the Flatpak repo?
I can comment on this one, Nate.
Sure,
I
comment
actually
on that one.
always, whenever I use Ubuntu, I don't mind the snap thing. That doesn't bother me, but I always enable Flatpaks because honestly, my favorite method of installing packages in any Debian-based distro, Ubuntu or not, is stock debs, but I will always install flat packs, and I even go as far as installing whatchamacallit, GNOME software, just personally because I like it, but that's just me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that is just my personal preference.
No, it's cool. If that's your personal preference, your personal preference. It's fine with me.
Right, exactly.
I install it also, and but I mean, I'm not tied to any of them, to be honest with you. I just need to get what I need to get from work. That's the way I look at it. And so, but I've never had a problem with flat packs. I've never had a problem with snaps. I've never had a problem with Debian packages, as far as something just not working. But I mean, I try and be a little more generalized about all these different platforms for distribution of software because, it's easy to fall into that fanboy slot of this is the best one,
Mhm.
They all have their good points, in my opinion.
Okay, it's Pekka Kana 2 is what I installed. So on Kubuntu. So if you want to check that out, Pekka Kana 2. That's I thought it was cute. And it's an open source game. I honestly I've only ever had issues with snaps on OpenSUSE. This is like probably, what year is it? Probably like 7 years ago, I think, was the last time I had a problem with it, where the snaps wouldn't launch. But I did have some other like lingering issues of like the font cache having to be cleared out, and so that was annoying. But I think snaps integrate into the host operating system theme way better than Flatpak. So I think they're still leagues ahead there as far as proper theme integration. But that's my experience. None of it's because I'm using Plasma, and Flatpak doesn't do as well.
I've been using Ubuntu since, what, 1804, I guess. So I don't really run other distros because I use it for my daily drive. And I mean, I play around with them in virtual, what is it, virtual machines. But mostly, I mean, I just run Ubuntu Budgie. I have been since then. So it's if it's something that Ubuntu's come out with, I've probably ran across it before. But that's my only breadth of experience is with the Ubuntu products. So.
I got you. So you've never had any issues, you said, with snaps or Flatpak or dev packages, really?
I mean, no. When I say issues, I mean as far as the software operating correctly. I've heard that some of the bigger packages, like I was trying to remember, what's the big audio video, the streaming software that everybody
OBS?
uses? Yeah, OBS. I've heard that there's some issues with that, depending on which version you're using. But the software I use is, I mean, being a developer, I don't really use a lot of that kind of stuff. It's mostly just Office apps and development apps. So.
Which Office apps do you use?
LibreOffice. Yeah, it works fine.
Just as an aside, do you run LibreOffice on a Wayland-based desktop or a X11-based desktop?
Well, right now it's running on Wayland.
Okay.
I mean, I run the Budgie desktop, and I think, in my opinion, after trying several different Ubuntu flavors, it was the one I really liked the best, and that's just my personal opinion. It seems a lot more stable than some of the other ones too, except for the vanilla GNOME one, that they released. But
is it stability, or are there some other features that you particularly enjoy?
it's mostly stability. I mean, I guess to me, it's that same thing where, you kind of find what works for you and you kind of stick with that. That's just kind of the way I am about it. And I guess that's just me getting old thinking that way. But it works. It works fine. I stick with LTS versions. I don't put experimental versions on my work machine. And because I tried that one time and it was a major problem. Like things like printer drivers and such, So I just don't do that anymore. But yeah, I mean, I did load up the 25.04 Budgie version in a virtual machine and played with it. The thing that I think that Ubuntu's really started doing well is with their installer. Their installer, I think, is one of the best ones out there from what I've seen. I know they developed it in Flutter, which is a Dart framework. But it seems like this version of the installer, it was a lot more verbose. It seemed to tell you a lot more about what was going on and what you're doing and so forth. So that was the biggest change I saw,
Yeah, I did notice their new installer was, I mean, it had all the same-ish features, just obviously wasn't Calamari's. It wasn't, what was the previous installer called that they used? I can't remember now.
Didn't they use Calamari's?
Ubiquity.
Oh,
Ubiquity, there we go.
Ubiquity.
Yeah.
They seem to have all the same features, so I guess it's fine with me, one way or the other. Let's see, what else here? So so as far as like snaps, Flatpak, some people did enable Flatpak, or FlatHub rather. I didn't enable it. Everything if like for a generic installation of a desktop environment, snaps really offered everything that I would generally need. So there was nothing. I didn't see any issues there. As a funny aside, so my oldest, he has strayed from OpenSUSE and he's actually using Fedora lately. He seems to like Fedora. And Dale, don't be upset. And he really likes running snaps on Fedora. Snaps are his favorite. I don't know why he goes through the extra steps, but here we are. And if he's happy, that's good. So, were there any missing applications that you needed? This almost seems like a non-issue anymore as far as applications are concerned. It seems like because of Flatpak and snaps, it's just. Is there anything you couldn't get running, I guess? Or maybe didn't run well?
I'll tell you something that I saw that was interesting was it looks like they've updated the network manager from 24.04 to 25.04, and it seems a little more user friendly than the previous version.
You said like more as in more available?
Well, just I mean the way it's laid out now, and like setting up VPNs, that kind of stuff, is a lot more user friendly than it was before. So.
Okay. What do you use a particular VPN that you use that you like?
Yeah, I use OpenVPN.
Okay. Oh, I see. You're saying.
Yeah, I have a node instance running Ubuntu server running OpenVPN, and that's my gateway in and out to the internet. So.
Yeah. I use WinScribe, but I haven't really used it much lately. I'm not since my current job, because I just VPN into my work to do whatever I need to do. So it just kind of solves that piece of it. Anyway,
A lot of people use pfSense. That's another one that a lot of people use.
Yeah, I used to have a pfSense box. Not here, but one that I used. So, anybody have any issues with doing updates?
Updates to the updating to.
Yeah. So, if you ran any updates and then ran into problems after running updates.
Well, there is an issue where the 25.04 update will brick a earlier system, which is not good. But they've kind of patched that you can't do that anymore until they get it fixed.
Okay. I did a fresh install, so I wouldn't have seen that. I ran.
So, yes. I would imagine most of the people here have been putting it on various working machines to try it out, so that issue would not, rear its ugly head. Yeah, I saw a couple of YouTube videos on that problem this week.
Okay. Yeah, I read. Where was it that I was listening? I was listening to something somewhere. Podcast that they're delaying the release until they had something with updates figured out. I thought there's some issue that may have been holding it up.
Yeah,
anyway.
My understanding is the update feature is broken at this point, and they pulled it back. The regular release is out. Go do what you want with it, but the update is on hold until they get it worked out.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't test that, so Cool. Well, so in Ubuntu, when I was doing updates in that one, I did have to punch in my root password or my sudo password a few times to get it to like finish. Not sure what was going on there. That was the only real thing I noticed. And Kubuntu, I had to punch in my password to do updates, but that was really the only. It was just unusual since I don't usually punch in a password to do updates on OpenSUSE. But it just could be the way the permissions are just laid out. But I didn't have any. But all the updates went through. Everything rebooted fine. There was no problems. I know Zoe Ronan says there were no updates for me. What was he running again? Ubuntu Mate. So he had no updates in his Ubuntu Mate. How long have you been running Ubuntu Mate, the 25.04? That's what I'm curious about now. I didn't have any issues running it in VirtualBox or in KVM Virt Manager, so I guess ran just fine there. But yeah, anybody here have any update? Like notice any issues with updates? No.
No.
Well, here's just some thoughts. Any like interesting little tidbits or bits of information. I don't know where else to put this, so this is where I'm putting it. The when Ubuntu loaded up, it had its chime. It's very nice. You know, there's nothing I dislike about the chime, but I can't help but sort of kind of miss the early days of Ubuntu with the little drum thing, because that was unique.
I forgot about that till now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought anyway. That's just what I thought.
I'm gonna go find you an MP3 file of that.
If you do, I'll use it somewhere. I don't know where.
Okay.
Maybe I'll make it the start of the sound of Linux Saloon. I'm gonna transition in. Or if I ever do bumpers like I planned on doing between segments, you know, or sweepers. Bumpers? No, bumpers. I said bumpers. That'd be the thing to do. Something else I thought was really neat. So now Ubuntu proper and Ubuntu, but not Kubuntu on this one. And I can't remember if Ubuntu Unity did this, but they offer at installation time a tie-in with Active Directory. So if you have, if you're running an Active Directory or an environment with Active Directory in it, I should say, that's an option. I didn't test it, but I think it might be something worth testing at some point in time. So, but anyway, I thought it was very interesting that existed, that they're thinking about that. So if you're running in a mixed Windows environment or in a corporate environment, that Active Directory tie-in would be quite useful. So yeah, that's something to think about. But anybody have any other little thoughts about something interesting that they came upon with Ubuntu? Something that kind of stood out?
Well, to me, I went to ubuntustudio.org and looked up 25.04 release. I downloaded the ISO and I want to run it in virtual because I want to play with all the stuff. So I'm scrolling down, playing with everything, and it says new this release. It says GIMP 3.0, and then it says something called Pencil 2D. It ain't installed on the operating system, even though it says it is here. So I go, it's Ubuntu. What did you expect? This is the kind of stuff that kills me with Ubuntu.
What is it? What was it called?
Pencil 2D. It was supposed to be installed in Ubuntu Studio, but on the live CD, it's not. Or the one I downloaded, it doesn't have it.
Huh.
Yeah, I have no idea why. It says it's there.
Well,
I mean,
it's
the other thing that I had one other small issue with it. So after I got disgusted with the fact that the second thing on the list isn't even there, I got up and left, got myself something to drink or something, come back, and it timed out, so I had to log in again. I went online. You can't log back in.
Oh boy.
Something's wrong with the password or something. I must have looked for a half hour, and I found a lot of people trying the same stuff I was trying, and they couldn't get in either.
And that was specifically Xubuntu, you said?
Yeah, it's Xubuntu. I just ran it off the live CD, and for some strange reason, the live CD's password, no one seems to know what it is. Or when it goes to the lockout screen, it stops working or something. Somebody said it was an error or something. I don't know. I think it's oh well. What are you going to do? This is what I found when running it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know I hate to be boring, but
No, just as an aside, that Pencil 2D,
yeah,
that's actually a neat looking application. I just looked it up on FlatHub.
yeah, it looked really neat. I go, oh boy, cool. I'll play with that for like 20 minutes. Why not? Right? It ain't there. I was like, okay, great.
So, years ago, back in my days of using the Amiga, I did a lot of animation. Like I did, that's something I did for fun, was do
Mhm.
animations. And so I think this is pretty cool because, yeah, I don't know, this would be neat to play with. You know, if I had more time and I could do artsy things, I would love to play with this. I'm going
Me
to
too.
install it nonetheless, just because I want to install it. But no, I think that's pretty cool. So Pencil 2D, I think I'll put a link.
Yeah,
in
it
the,
really looked neat.
the chat.
But when it wasn't installed,
That'd be something worth checking out. So if you're into artsy things, that might be a fun. So I think we might talk about mail applications, the next application appetizer, like different mail clients. But that I think we might talk like different art packages. Something besides Krita and GIMP. So anyway, that's actually an interesting little tidbit. There, I've learned something this Linux Saloon, so we can call it a show then.
Yay!
Got something I can dork around with. You know, one week it was Orca Slicer, and then I used the snot out of that, and then now this.
Oh yeah. Oh no, Meld. I use Meld a lot.
What's
And
Meld?
somebody mentioned what?
What's Meld?
If you want to compare two directories or two files to see if they're the same.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought somebody mentioned it here.
No, that's
I could have sworn that's where I learned it from.
May have been me. I use
Yeah,
that
it
a lot.
probably was you.
I've used
I'll take the credit. Sure.
Sure. I might as well somebody take it.
I've used
Let me see
Kate.
if I can find what it is.
I've used Kate to compare. I wonder if this has a different.
Let me see if I can find what it's. Yeah, it's called MELD Meld. It's a file comparison.
Oh, I put that in the put that in the chat down there. Oh, I see, Mike. You did include the Ubuntu sound in the
Just
in
for
the
you,
meeting
but
chat.
just for you.
You're a man of your word. All right. Anything else interesting you might want to that you'd like to bring up about your experience?
I've covered it on my end, Nate.
Alrighty. Well, in that case,
I-
the next
I'm
question
sorry.
is. Go ahead.
I just wanted to throw in a couple of points.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of getting the feeling that besides Ubuntu and Wayland, or Ubuntu and the stock Ubuntu, which is based on GNOME and KDE, not a whole lot has been going on the Wayland side for the other flavors, and I think some of them has kind of stalled. So I'm not sure going forward if we're going to have that amount of choice.
So I do know a lot of work is being done with LXQT. So there's some different there are different ways to getting Wayland on LXQt. I don't know about the others. Like I think none of those work being done on Cinnamon. I know there's there's an experimental
Yeah,
for it now.
there's an experimental version. It kind of sucks. And the other thing that I looked at, okay, Budgie is also like one of those things that is lagging behind on the Wayland side. And Unity has not had an update, as far as I can tell, for 2 years. So Yeah,
Well, this,
and
sorry, go
there's
ahead.
still official flavors. Um, but the question is like for how long? Yeah.
Does anybody know if Unity is still using the mirror compositor?
Compositor, not sure. I'll download it and take a look at some point.
Because that might be a stopping block for using Wayland. I don't know.
I thought there was a project. I could have. I would almost bet my prize rooster that there is. I don't have a prize rooster, but that there was some work on Mirror and Wayland as like some sort of there's a Wayland compositor with Mirror or something like that. I thought there was some work being done. This is like information that's years old though. I thought I heard it on the Ubuntu podcast before that went away. I know, I could be wrong.
What Budgie's doing is they have a library that was created by XFCE that allows translation from Wayland back to X11 calls. And they use that as a interim as they convert their apps over. I know this new version in 25.04, I think it's 10.9.2 of Budgie. There were 3 or 4 new apps that are pure Wayland apps now, if you install that. And if you don't, there's a library to run it in like a compatibility mode on X11.
You know, Plasma also has something it's called Wayland to X11 Video Bridge. I'm sure it's probably something similar to that.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see in 5 years where Wayland is. You know?
Well, I remember in 2012, it was about 6 months away. At least that's what everyone told me. That's what everyone said at the time. Apparently it didn't pan out. So let's see, we'll look at here real quick. Right, so there's Budgie for the flavors, Budgie, then there's Plasma, LXQt, Mate. I don't know what that one is. Oh, Xubuntu. Let's see, Kylan or Chillin, Ubuntu Studio, Unity, Xubuntu. So, I think Mate. I wonder if like Mate is going to have good, proper Wayland support. Like to me, that's the one that's probably most. Like I don't know how much momentum is behind the Mate desktop lately. I don't hear much about it, I guess. So that seems like that could go anyway. So, anyway, interesting. All right, so I guess the last question is anybody here going to stick with using any of the Ubuntu flavors for their daily driver?
Yep.
Mike is.
I use it on specialized hardware situations, not as a daily driver.
Okay. I use it in server roles quite a bit. That and Debian and Leap.
Like I said, I use Kubuntu LTS for my 81-year-old grandmother or 81-year-old mother, and it does everything that she needs it to do, and there's no reason for me to change it and upset her flow.
Right. Yeah. Just leave it. Perfect.
Yeah.
What about you, Jinda? You're MX Linux all the way, right?
Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to put it, yeah.
It's
The only other
unfortunate.
one I have running is Bunsen Labs. I'm still running Bunsen Labs on my laptop.
Yeah, I like that one though. It's very charming. There's something very charming about it.
It's very minimalistic and it runs very well on a laptop with 2 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I'm not going to run on a desktop probably, but I will. I like to check in on Ubuntu just to see how it's doing. Anything exciting? I'd really like to see Unity 8 become a thing. If I had anything that I could if I could wish for anything, I'd like to see a Unity 8 that was worked on so long ago but stalled out. Kind of to continue on the Unity legacy, but that's just me. That's just me. All right. So I guess that'll put a bow on that at 1 hour 6 minutes. So I guess it's time for some housekeeping. Next week is a news flight night. So if you have any news topics you'd like to bring up that you think we should discuss, feel free to send those to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. Although I'm really behind on my email checking, like I'm way behind on it, like super behind. It seems like it's a hard pit to crawl out of, you know. Anyway, send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, or you can tag it into the Telegram or Discord. Which, by the way, I think I'm gonna try and do a little bit better job on the whole Discord thing. I'm gonna try. That's my New Month's resolution for me. I think we have, this is our last April Linux Saloon. So there's that. Can you believe we're almost halfway through the year already? Man, it's still cold out here in Michigan.
Yeah,
I'd like to have some warm weather. Yeah, and then someone wants to block out the sun in the United Kingdom. So there's that. Anyway, so yeah, next week, News Flight Night. If you have any discussion suggestions, distribution suggestions, applications, or poll ideas, please do send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. I would, or tag on the Discord or Telegram, or send me a direct message. That's good too. And I usually see those. Not so much Discord, but Telegram I do. Yeah, check that out. Alrighty. So for the news or open discussion. So Ben, I wanted to, you made some mention about something crazy or something whatever earlier. What is this?
Yes, it was
Was it your crazy what?
my craziness with my laptop having a what you call it, my wireless card antennas in the laptop got so munged up from taking it apart, so I don't know how many daggone times, because the wireless, my dad and I, it's an Asus TUF 11th gen laptop. It originally came with a MediaTek Wi-Fi, unknown to me when I bought it. And funnily, we decided that, you know, I told my dad that we need to switch this out. So originally, we switched it to an Intel card. Then we tried doing a Broadcom, and by that point, the card antennas were just so munged. And the problem was, we then decided it was, going to end up being the fact that, we're just going to take it out and, cut the wires off and put in a USB dongle. Now, the problem is this dongle is TP-Link based and it's wireless AC, and sadly, the kernel is not running it too well. Windows isn't running it too well, whatever. So, I did buy a Broadcom card to try, but my dad just doesn't see a point in putting in new wires because you have to get under the screen and all this and that, or sorry, under the board. And he just does not feel like that's a good idea because also the bottom of the machine and the top are splitting apart. So this machine's like on a ticking time bomb at this point.
Sounds like it.
So, and the problem is he doesn't have the money to replace it. So, I'm just running out of ideas as to what the heck to do.
Yeah, sounds like
Yeah, so basically, I'm just about ready to say to heck with this and just take the laptop outside, take the SSDs and the RAM out of it, put that Wi-Fi card in some other machine and just call it a day, because I mean, this machine, while it's a good machine, it's just, the wireless is giving me a pain in the butt. And, like I said, I'm probably just going to scrap it for parts and just forget about it.
How old is
And the
it?
problem is go ahead. Oh, it's only like 2021, 2022, something like that.
Oh,
And
that's
the
very old at all.
sad thing is, it's an Asus TUF machine, but the challenge is, you know, if I have to, I'm considering replacing it with a Dell Workstation laptop, a precision model, because honestly, man, with hopefully with the SSI that my dad gets this coming month, we're gonna be able to do that, and that's basically why I haven't thrown this machine to the wayside yet, because I looked on eBay, and the reason I want to get this precision a workstation computer is because it comes with AMD graphics in it, and I'm honest to God tired of these whatchamacallit um
Proprietary
NVIDIA
NVIDIA drivers.
onboard.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're good for gaming, but they're not really good for Linux. So I'd rather have a discrete AMD card, which also works better in Mac OS and other operating systems that I use. And I was like, get me off this stupid NVIDIA. So, that's just where I'm at. So, what were you going to say?
So I'm not sure about, you made it sound like it was some kind of a tougher book type model that you have.
It's an Asus TUF computer. Yeah.
Tough computer. So I wonder why the case would be splitting on a tough computer. Maybe it's not so tough.
It's really not, man. It feels like it's made out of stinking plastic. It sucks. And my dad paid $750 for it, and I'm just like, you know, the dang thing just feels like a paperweight at this point, being held by a thread, So, and he glued the thing back together, and it's still, it was not a good idea. So yeah. I'm probably just gonna go outside here after the show and just,
Have
or
a
I'll
funeral
call him
for
or
it.
whatever. And yeah, have a funeral for the dang thing and just like unplug the wireless dongle, bring it back inside and say bye bye to the machine, but I'm gonna take it outside, and when my dad gets home on the 29th with my mom from vacation, I'm going to ask him to take the SSDs and the RAM out and be like, bye bye, machine. So that's just where we're at. But yeah, hopefully we can save it. And if not, it's what it is.
So for what it's worth, Fratum says, Fratum says,
His name is Steve.
Steve, okay. But that's not what his name says here. So anyway.
No, I know. It's his real name.
I go by handles.
What was Fratum saying?
I just go by handles. It says, my current laptop runs Intel Arc GPU, and it runs really well in Linux. That's good news because...
Well, sadly, Arc GPUs do not work in a Hackintosh scenario. They can't. Yeah.
Why?
You have to have it. Well, Apple didn't write drivers for that, and writing a custom driver, or aka Kext, for unsupported hardware. Yeah, you would have to custom code a Kext to run it, and that just ain't gonna happen. So, I would highly suggest if you're gonna run a hack, just get a 10th gen laptop, call it good enough, or something lower than that. Because Apple is not gonna custom build, or no developer is going to custom build a driver for that. Either way, yeah, if you're running Linux, then go right ahead. But yeah, there goes the dog.
The only way I'm going to run Mac on a computer is to do it on real hardware, or do the quick MU thing. Quick MU? Hold on, what's it called? Yeah, quick MU. That's the only way I'll do it.
EMU, yeah. I remember you showed us that one time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works all right. Ish. I think there were some updates to QEMU that'll make things better. So, anyway. Well, good deal. Well, yeah, I think Anna Rita says, get an external USB, Wi-Fi. Some of them work great, some of them don't.
I did,
TP-Link.
and
TP-Link makes
yeah,
probably the best.
TP-Link does not. That's what I'm using, Nate, and it's having horrendous speeds for me in Linux right now.
Well,
I'm using the Archer model, something or other. It's a AC model, so I'm running kernel 6.12, and for some silly reason, man, it just ain't working. So I don't know what the heck's wrong.
Just so you know, Fratum says this whole Hackintosh is silly. So there you go.
Yeah, well, either way, man, I'm just gonna be like, stuff it. I'm gonna just get a better laptop for that, and hopefully the what do you call it? The thing will work better. So that's where we're at.
Gotcha. Well, good
Anyway, I'm just gonna hope to get a machine that is not such a pain in the neck to run Linux, or because sadly we all know the woes of NVIDIA and the woes of USB wireless dongles. Because sadly I've had those before, AC or not, and it's just never been a plausible, decent solution. So yeah. Either way, there's your update for me for this week. Hopefully next week it'll be better and I'll have something to talk about with StormOS. So yeah, bit of a shorter community section for me tonight. So
that was just open discussion.
No, but yeah, for the community section later tonight, I will aim to talk about a little bit something with StormOS, and part of that actually relates to the Ubuntu discussion we were having a few minutes ago.
Alrighty.
Because, yeah, I'm going to give a little small tidbit for that. The Ubuntu flavor I'm working on is actually called Thunder OS. So
Sweet.
you're gonna be hearing about a little bit of thunder this evening
to go along with the storm. Oh, I got to get this one here. So Don Leckman says, I remember the woes of Winmodems. Yes. I remember I got it to work once, and that was it. I don't know why I couldn't get it to work a second time. Yeah. But anyway, Winmodems.
That sounds like worse than doggone dial-up days.
It is from the dial-up days. Winmodems were
that was the epitome of my childhood. Actually.
They were like laptops or even modems. They would have a Winmodem would be like a software-controlled, software-defined modem.
Oh my god!
So it wasn't. You had to have the right drivers for it, and it was a really complicated problem.
It sounded like a heck of a process to get Linux working back then.
Yeah, sure. Dale, did you ever use Winmodems?
Oh my god.
Oh my word.
Yes. When 1998 was my introduction to Linux, and I had a Winmodem. I didn't understand why Linux couldn't use my dial-up modem. And then I figured out why, because it was a Winmodem. So I actually bought a hardware modem just so I could use Linux on my dial-up in 1998, and it actually worked.
What if any have you looked at Winmodems?
I never could get the Winmodem to work.
I don't know nothing about it, Nate.
No, the Winmodems kind of didn't work. I actually used the sound card for a modem back then in Linux.
Wow, sounds like y'all had a hell of a time getting that thing to work.
Yeah.
Actually, the sound card was pretty straightforward. Somebody made a driver for it. All I had to do was solder up a couple of wires.
A driver. You had to solder it together.
Yeah, so, because it's sound, and that's all it is.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's just an aside. So a soft modem is actually what they're officially called. A software modem, commonly referred to as a soft modem, is a modem with minimal hardware that uses software running on the host computer and the computer's resources, especially the central processing unit, or CPU, and sometimes using audio processing in place of the hardware of a conventional modem. Soft modems are also sometimes called Winmodems due to the limited support for platforms other than Windows. By analogy, a Lin modem is a soft modem that can run on Linux. So soft modems are sometimes used as an example of a hard real-time system. The audio signals to be transmitted must be computed on a tight interval on the order of every.
Those modems for Windows 95.
I think mid to late 90s is when they were kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I wonder if there is anything else on this. But there was actually a Winmodem site I remember using.
Those things were awful, man. I mean, they really were. I mean, talk about a bad idea in technology.
To be honest, this is the first time I've ever heard of a LAN modem.
I think I had one. What were those cards called, Nate? The little, was it a PCM CAI or something?
PCM
PCM
CIA.
CIA.
Yeah. Golly. I had one of those, and it was a Win modem, and it didn't work half the time.
So apparently there's a GitHub project here on Lin modems. I know nothing about it. Yeah, I think it's gonna be my internet's not doing great right now. So sorry about the buffering. Also, I made a mistake. It's actually doing it at 60 frames per second. I should have done 30, because nobody cares if it's 60 or 30 frames per second for Linux Saloon. I've never had anyone complain about that. Anyway, so Lin modems. Yep, good times. Well, I get to a news story here that I thought was kind of interesting. From the Telegram, the news articles for open source and tech. Yeah, news articles, Linux, open source and tech. Thread on there. So TechCrunch, from TechCrunch, the OpenAI exec says the firm would buy Google's Chrome browser if offered the chance. That sounds great. That was also sarcasm. But anyway, so just by the title. So from Kyle Wiggers, yeah. He says, an OpenAI exec said during Google's antitrust trial this week that OpenAI would be interested in buying Google's Chrome browser if it were made available for sale. ChatGPT and Nick Turley said in a court hearing on Tuesday that acquiring Chrome would allow OpenAI to offer a really incredible experience and introduce users to what an AI-first browser looks like. Turley had been called by the Justice Department to testify as part of a trial aimed at determining which business practice Google must modify after a judge ruled the company had monopolized the online search market. The Justice Department has asked that Google be forced to divest Chrome. I don't agree with that. OpenAI has reportedly considered working on a web browser to compete with Chrome. The company went so far as to hire ex-Google developer Ben Goodger and Darren Fisher, who worked on the original Chrome project several months ago. So would you use a browser from OpenAI?
I would.
Okay, Ben would. I would not. Jinda, would you?
Probably not.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like a good idea.
Heck no.
Nope.
Like that question again.
All right. Well, I guess that settles that. Not a whole lot. So maybe OpenAI should not invest in this because the Linux Saloon panel, not a fan. I don't know. I think like the whole Copilot. Like I used Copilot for a while in Edge, but now with some of the updates in Windows 11, because I do have a Windows 11 machine at work, I find that it went from being a nice to have toy to now being invasive. The whole AI thing, like they need to dial it back. Like they're just doing a little bit too much now. It's to the point where it's annoying. And even like the Amazon, the Rufus they have in there for like asking questions about products, whatever, or like reviews and such. That's also not very good either. I need to dial that back as well. I don't know. That's my opinion. But I definitely would not use a browser with from OpenAI because they're not open.
Actually, I dialed that back. I am not going to use a browser that's based from AI. I'm just not.
Well, it would be based. It'd be just baked in.
I mean, with a baked-in AI product, I'm just not going to take that chance. No. I mean, to me, that's too evasive. You're right. Too much, all this and that. rather stick with a standard typical browser and just call it good enough. I mean, the only reason I really use AI is for when I'm doing like tinkering or coding or whatever, you know. That's it.
I got you. Makes sense. All right, I have another article here that may be of interest to the class, or the saloon, as it were. Looks like Steam will stop working on outdated Linux systems. Did anybody hear this or read this one?
I saw the title, but I didn't get a chance to look at it.
Well, so starting August 15th of this year, Steam will no longer work on Linux systems using glibc older than version 2.31. So as Valve has signaled an important shift in Steam Linux support policy, according to a recent announcement, the Steam client will no longer run any distribution with a GNU C library older than 2.3.1 starting August 15th, 2025. Users who stay on an outdated toolchain will find not only Steam, but also any purchased games unable to launch until the underlying operating system is upgraded. But for most of you, this is no room for worry, and here's why. Older versions of glibc, specifically those before version 2.31, are still found in Linux distributions released 5 years or more ago. For example, consider Debian 10, Ubuntu 18.04, Fedora 31, Linux Mint 19, CentOS 7, RHEL 7 family, RHEL 8, Alma Linux 8, Rocky Linux 8, among others. You get the picture. Where's the OpenSUSE? They didn't like take a shot at Leap? No? Nothing? So basically, really old at this point. So if you want to keep enjoying your favorite titles after August, you should start thinking about upgrading your system. And just quickly, before we wrap up, I want to share a bit about why glibc library is actually such a big deal in all of this. So glibc forms a low-level runtime glue that every dynamically linked application on Linux relies on. Think of this as the universal toolbox that almost every program on your system reaches for whatever it needs to do everyday jobs, like opening a file, showing text on the screen, talking to the network, or asking the kernel for memory. So since Steam and its games are compiled against newer glibc symbols, older libraries will quite literally not understand the calls anymore. As a result, neither Steam itself nor the games it launches will be able to run. Once again, if you're running Linux systems with glibc version before 2.3.1, for some reason, it's time to consider upgrade. And happy gaming. So I am going to find out. See, now I'm curious.
So to answer your question, Leap 15.6 has GCC 12 and 13. Is that what we're looking for? Is GCC?
glibc, I guess.
12.
You said OpenSUSE 12?
OpenSUSE Leap 15.6 has glibc 12.
Oh, it looks like 15.3.
No. That's GCC. You're looking for glibc.
Okay.
Yes.
Hold on.
So it looks like OpenSUSE Leap versions 15.3, 15.4, and 15.5 use glibc version 2.31. So if you're running OpenSUSE Leap, better get upgrading.
Yep.
Well.
Yep, 2.38 can be downloaded on 15.6.
Yep, 15.6 uses 2.38. Yeah. Well, anyway, so there you go. That's exciting. Sorry, I had to bring in the OpenSUSE angle because I like, I like my OpenSUSE.
I like an OpenSUSE tumbleweed. I don't run anything Leap.
Yeah, same. I do run just at work, but I'm not going to play Steam games on Leap.
Yeah.
So Enrita says, I'm using Linux Mint 22.1, so I'm good then, right? So, I don't know. I'm going to grok the question. So you, according to grok, it uses 2.39. Linux Mint 22.1. So you are just fine. Cool beans. Well, anyway, does anybody here use Steam besides me?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, yes. I'm actually playing Star Wars: The Republic via Steam right now, Nate, and that is actually a Windows title, running in Proton experimental. But yeah, it's um, it's uh, it's running just fine, and they are using an up-to-date
Mhm.
whatchamacallit libc package, and I'm on Gen 2, as you probably gathered, but regardless, say you were to download an out-of-date portage tarball and try and install it, it won't even work without a bunch of crazy trickery, because you'd have to point to old as heck mirrors, you'd have to do all this malarkey and rigmarole just to get, the system installed. And even if you could, you're not going to get Steam running on the darn thing, just because you're right. The glibc and GCC and all these other dependencies, either one won't compile or won't link right against Steam. So you'd have to download an out-of-date version of Steam, and you'll be hard-pressed to even get that thing to work without doing a bunch of trickery again. So, it's not, in my honest opinion, it's not worth installing an out of date as heck version of Steam and distro. It's like asking for crap to break, in my honest opinion. That's just my
Gotcha.
2 cents. Because unless you have a real knack or need for it, just install an updated operating system.
Like Tumbleweed. Right, Dan?
Like
Right, exactly.
Make your life easy.
Whatever you feel like using, just install a newer version of the dang thing. Just my opinion.
I agree. All right. Well, another article. Guys, keep it on sort of the game train, I guess. Sort of. So Wine 10.6, the new Lexer Bcrypt has with new Lexer Bcrypt enhancements and 27 bug fixes are a thing. So here's the article if you want to follow along at home. But the Wine project is a compatibility layer renowned for enabling Linux and macOS users to run Windows applications. Has official release version 10.6 as the 6th maintenance update to the stable 10 series. One of the release's highlights is the introduction of a new Lexer in the command processor. This enhancement promises more efficient script parsing and execution, translating into smoother operations across various command line applications. Moreover, integration with the PBKDF2 algorithm, which is top of mind for me, in Bcrypt, has bolstered security capabilities within Wine. Fans of graphic-intensive software will appreciate the expanded support for image metadata in Windows codecs. Gamers will be pleased to hear that Wine 10.6 has tackled several troublesome bugs. Popular titles like Alan Wake, EVE Online, Ultra Kill, and Unity-based games have all received critical fixes. Alan Wake, for instance, no longer crashes at startup, and Unity games now properly handle application focus and keyboard input, enhancing overall gaming stability. Additionally, Wine 10.6 addresses a variety of visual and functional glitches. Users of IRFanView, WC3, World Editor, and applications like 2GIS and Resource Hacker will notice improvements in rendering accuracy and interface responsiveness. Furthermore, a notable bug affecting virtual desktop functionality, which previously caused resizing issues, has now been resolved, significantly improving the user experience for desktop environments that mirror the host OS resolutions. Lastly, as with any new version, there are various bug fixes, this time 27 total, that address stability and performance concerns. For more, you can visit the announcement. Wine 10.6 source code can be downloaded from GitLab's project page. For those interested in trying out or upgrading their current installation, the binary packages for various distributions are expected to be available shortly. So that's exciting-ish. And my bitrate is really dropping. So that's a problem. So anyway,
I think it's interesting how far wine has come in the last 5 to 6 years. I mean, they've really stepped up and support a lot more applications than they used to.
Yeah, they really have. Sometimes it seems like it's just a little bit too slow in the getting caught up. I should check out some old games again, just for kicks. So, all right. Well, I hate to be rude, but I don't know if my internet's going to stabilize out because it's bouncing up and down.
It's okay,
So-
Nate. Next week we can do the StormOS segment.
Yep. So I think
I didn't know that your I'm sorry, I didn't know that your internet was taking a nosedive like that.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Yeah,
all
Henry
right.
said your bit rate is pooey tonight, but that's okay. Not your faulty.
It's not your
Probably.
fault. It's the dang ISP being a pain in the butt.
Well, it's I don't have like I have to use cellular.
A dedicated,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
I need to get.
you know.
I really need to bite the bullet and buy Starlink. That's what I need to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, golly.
Yeah, but I still want to spend the money. All right, so we're gonna go ahead
I totally
and
understand.
jump on to last call.
Yeah.
I'm gonna maybe call a little bit earlier than tonight.
I actually do have to go. The dog's being a pain in the butt.
Oh, take care of that dog. So the dog, because the dog
All
will
right,
take
man.
care of you.
See you guys.
Yep.
See you, Barnes.
All right. So last call. So I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna stabilize out, but I'm getting Google's yelling. I mean, YouTube is yelling at me. So we're gonna go ahead and just kind of run through this. So Steve's very own. He was in the chat. I think he said like one thing, but check him out. He does a lot of streaming lately. Sunday mornings at I think it's 8:30 Central. I've been missing him lately because of my schedule changes on Sunday morning. But check him out on the YouTubes. That's Steve's very own. You actually just talked to Rick. You know Rick from not a Linux Guru guy. I just talked to him for a little while this week, so it was nice to chat with him.
That's good.
He's into this flight simulator thing. I don't know if he's doing any streaming right now because I haven't seen anything online. Like I haven't seen him, do anything. But he took a picture of him playing some Microsoft Flight Simulator flying over my house, and so I could see Cubicle Labs in it. I had the roof line all wrong, and I asked him if he could crash into it. He said that was the first time anyone's ever asked him to crash into their house. But anyway. Oh no, Anna, it happens often. Really what I need to have is two connections, 2 uplinks, because Starlink does also drop out a little bit, and then between the two I would have like actually a decent bit rate. Or I can wait or spend like 10 grand to get like Comcast installed, and that's never gonna happen. So they're too far away. But anyway, there's that.
What kind of connection do you have now?
I have a cellular uplink to AT&T.
Ah, okay.
Verizon does not offer this location.
Do they not offer fiber in your area?
What's that?
Do they not offer AT&T? Do they not offer fiber?
I live in the sticks, so no.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I do not. I have to drive to civilization. Anyway, if you haven't checked out Linux User Space, do so. The latest episode that released 5 days ago, they talk about Qt, where I think the Qt developers on the Plasma side of things, they're integrated a little bit of AI into the I want to say it's a KD developer or KDevelop or something like that, or maybe it was Qt develop, something like that. So you can have them basically AI will help write comments in there, like what the code's doing. So that's kind of cool. But they kind of have a discussion there about where's the line between how much AI should do when it comes to coding and what's too far and what is actually good, what is useful and what's not. Great discussion. Also some talk about memory safe programming languages as well. C is not memory safe. But I was thinking, they're not very happy about AI in certain aspects, but some people aren't really crazy about Rust or some of these other memory protected languages. So what if you could have AI ensure that you're not writing any memory unsafe code in C++? That sounds like it makes everybody happy, right? So anyway, that's my thought. I should leave my comment.
It kind of does.
That does sound good, but good luck with that.
I'm just saying. Kind of like they talk about how I think Google has it test the code or something like that. They have AI code testing, so some sort of QA. I think AI is such a stretch, but anyway, there's that. Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. I don't know if he's still in the chat. He probably isn't, but he was there early on. He does a stream on Sundays. I think it's at 11 o'clock Eastern. I think is when it starts. So Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. You can check that out. And then Mike, do you still have your BBS up, or do you have your BBS up now?
Yeah, it's still up and running. I worked on it today, as a matter of fact, added some games, and I'm hoping to start adding some files to the file bases, but just haven't got there yet. Just have limited time. So
cool. Yeah, should check that out. Then Dale, I did see. I think I couldn't tune in, but I did get a notification that you were streaming something this week. Were you playing something?
Yeah, I was playing Last Epoch, the ARPG, playing it in Linux on Steam Proton. I do have a plan. I don't have a schedule on when, but my next time I go live, I'll be going live doing some ink stitch with Inkscape work.
Oh, that'll be neat.
Yeah. I just got to figure out exactly what I want to do with it. I think I have an idea that'll work, so just got to do it and see if it works.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be neat. Well, if you get to that, oops, I totally messed up that the message there. Looks like garbage. All right, but there's a couple links there. I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We didn't record this week. I think this week we might be recording. I don't know, but we'll find out. Also, I have a website called Kubuntu.com. I did actually release a couple things this week. One being the some issues with being able to brighten and dim my screens on, like, after waking the screens back up. It's not always, but there's a way to restart that. I did a little article on that, as well as the additional hardware functionality that came down in OpenSUSE Tumbleweed for accessing some of the microcontroller on the framework, specifically to exposing the battery charge level, which is pretty cool. So I did an article there on Kubuntu.com as well. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes. But anyway, so Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. And thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation here on Zoom or in the YouTube stream, and for watching the show after the fact. So I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in our personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yas.